Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, 5 years after a fire in downtown Windsor, a big step towards closure for the people impacted. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has tonight's top story.
As soon as we got to the hallway, it was a nightmare. It was so smoky. You can just smell the fire.
Chad Robinson was living here in downtown Windsor when a fire in the building forced him out. It was an accidental electrical failure that sparked the fire in the parking garage of Westcourt Place in November 2019. Robinson, more than 200 other tenants, and businesses on the lower floors have never been able to move back in. They filed a $35 million class action lawsuit. Now, more than 5 years after the fire, the lawsuit has finally been settled for $7.3 million.
Even though if you did have insurance for this fire, financially, it put a burden on a lot of people because of they had to stay somewhere else. Clothing wise, they had to buy clothes. Like this probably cost me $5,000 to $10,000 of personal money, and everybody else mentally and financially. So it was a big situation for all of us.
Today, the building sits empty, and CBC News reached out to Westcourt's lawyers, but we didn't hear back in time. We still don't know why people can't move back into this building or how many of them still have their lease. In an email, the City of Windsor said that the building has not complied with orders issued after the fire, and in July last year, it filed 3 provincial offense charges. These are going through the courts with the next appearance date set for later this month. The lawyer representing the residents says the settlement covers 136 units and some businesses. Anyone opposed to the settlement can file an objection by February 19th. Then on March 6th, a judge will decide whether to approve it. As for Robinson, he hopes that this will help people move on.
I'm doing better now because I live in a house. I think if this event if it healed quicker, if it didn't take 5 years, I think a lot more people in the building and that probably would have be better off.
Robinson gave up his lease shortly after the fire and says that he has no plans to move back. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor's budget is set to be approved next month, and it's got a lower tax hike than initially proposed. But as Chris Ensing reports, as a result, Windsorites will need to pay more in other ways.
Windsor's budget discussion's been dominated by the potential end of the tunnel bus, but there's more changes proposed for 2025 and a warning to City Council that low tax increases can't continue without significant service cuts. This budget says no more free parking. Between 6 and 9 at night, drivers need to pay and pay more. Hourly rates would go up by a quarter, something councils considered before. Downtown businesses are against the plan. This budget also raises parking tickets. Both items combined net the city an extra $1 million annually. User fees are going up. The city says they've been undercharging some fees for years, and a line-by-line review will bring those costs in line with comparable communities. So the price of swimming lessons, day camps, event spaces that you can rent, all going up. Developers are going to pay more for certain applications as well, and business licenses, that's the initial fee and the yearly fee, they're going up as well. An example, if you have a food store, the initial fee was $290 and $191 each year. That goes up to about $380 and $238 annually. On the spending side, there's $30,000 pinned to fixing this problem. Windsor gets a goose management strategy in this budget. The city trying to remove as many eggs as possible from parks all across Windsor. And this isn't the call Councillor Joanne Gignac suggested, saying that there's a dangerous amount of geese in the city, but it is a step towards management. Ontario's mandating compost programs province-wide this year. Green bins will be available for Windsor homeowners by late October. City taxpayers split half the program costs with the county. That's $2.3 million this year, but a full year of collection could be closer to $10 million. And while this year's budget is the focus right now, another warning from senior administration that Windsor can't keep operating status quo budgets before something breaks. Writing, in this growing city, quote, it is no longer possible to find sufficient savings within the city-controlled budgets to offset the annual budget increases without a significant impact to existing municipal services. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for a quick look at weather. Colette, a beautiful snowy day today. I even went out for a walk. It was great.
Yes, I'm glad that you feel that, you know, how beautiful it is. It's winter time, looks good. There is that little bit about how cold it is, but that's another thing, right? What do you expect at this time of year? Showing you what's happening here with the radar. Of course, this time last evening, we had that westerly flow and we were getting those squalls coming off of Lake Michigan all the way into southwestern Ontario. We were still seeing that this morning, experiencing that, and now into a bit of a breather. The wind's changing direction. They're a little bit lighter, but still we've got some gusty winds out there. And overnight tonight, from time to time, a few flurries in our skies, -10. Feeling like -18, as it did through much of the day today because the winds were so strong. Tomorrow afternoon, -4. Sunny breaks may be a little hard to come by, but I've put a few in there. I'll have more details on that coming up.
Sounds good. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, Premier Doug Ford says it is time for Canadian leaders to get their act together. He is calling for a united response to Donald Trump's threat to impose tariffs on all Canadian goods. The 13 premiers will meet with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Wednesday, with less than a week before Trump returns to the White House. Kate McKenna reports.
The clock is ticking, and Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods could come into effect within a week.
It could cost 500,000 jobs. This is serious. It's unprecedented.
Some provincial officials were out talking about the border, announcing measures to stop illegal drugs and immigration. It's Trump's big ask as premiers push the president-elect for a change of heart on tariffs.
Today, we are here to announce taking some further and additional steps to enhance the integrity of the border.
Saskatchewan promised to redeploy 16 officers for border surveillance. Quebec says it's boosting security here, an area known as the Swanton sector, where 19,000 people crossed illegally last year.
With the RCMP, with the Sûreté du Québec, with different partners, there's around 800 resources on the ground each day to see the situation at the border, to respond to illegal crossing.
But Trump seems determined to bring in tariffs on Canadian goods, seeming to ignore that the extra costs will likely be passed on to American consumers. He posted today he'll create an external revenue service to collect tariffs. The premiers say they're not giving up.
Our commitment is to fight for your jobs. Our commitment is to ensure that through a period of political turbulence and economic uncertainty, that we protect your job and your ability to provide for your family.
Today, the federal finance minister met with Doug Ford. They spoke about the national border plan and the new public safety minister, David McGuinty.
I saw the plan for border security. It's phenomenal. As I said to Minister LeBlanc, have Mr. McGuinty get out there and start promoting it because it is a solid plan.
Doug Ford also says Ottawa should come up with a stimulus package to help companies if the tariffs go ahead. He'll have the chance to make his case to Justin Trudeau directly when the premiers meet with the Prime Minister tomorrow in Ottawa. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, you don't need me to tell you that it has been cold out for the last few days. We know we talked about that with Colette earlier in the program. Now, what you might not know, though, is that it is so cold that ice is starting to form along parts of the Detroit River. And for folks who like to fish and enjoy the cold, that is good news. Our video producer, Mike Evans, stopped by Windsor's Lakeview Park Marina for more.
How thick is the ice we're standing on today, and how thick should it be for you to feel safe out here, Hunter?
So we're on about 5.5 to 6 inches. They say about 3 inches is enough for a person. This is good, clear ice. So I feel pretty safe out here.
You're not the only one out here fishing today. Tell me about what else we have going on here. It seems like there's a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, most people have gone home by now. It's getting later in the day, but there's still a few people out here. This place normally freezes up first. Out in Kingsville, there's nothing really that freezes very good, especially for perch. So this is kind of the closest place.
So how long have you been here today, Hunter?
Probably about 2 hours now.
And I understand that you caught something that you were not expecting to catch.
Yeah, I ended up catching a decent-sized rainbow trout.
How many perch do you think you've caught today in 2 hours?
Probably about 12 or 13. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yesterday was better, but we're sticking it out here, trying to catch some.
So describe your setup. What all do you have here?
I'm a little advanced here. I got a camera. I don't have a HUD or a heater going right now. Basically just running a minnow on a hook and fishing through the ice.
How long does this ice fishing season last for you guys?
Last couple of years, it's been real bad. Like, we get a week or two here and there. We got that good freeze last year, and we got out here for like a week. Hopefully we get a couple weeks out here this year, but it's not much.
How helpful is that camera?
It's pretty helpful, especially when the fish are being super finicky. You can kind of watch what they're doing, see what they want to eat, see what they like, see what they don't like.
So you'll be going home and you'll be eating that stuff tonight?
Yep. Yeah, it'll be getting put in the deep fryer and cooked up.
For 2.5 years, the doors of the Belle Isle Conservatory have been closed to the public, but finally they are open once again. So let's check it out.
Come on, welcome into the Palm House.
Thank you.
Brand new glass.
Beautiful.
So right now we're in the Palm Dome of the Anna Scripps Whitcomb Conservatory. This facility with the Belle Isle Aquarium was opened in 1904. So it's been a long time favorite for Detroiters, and we recently did a lot of work to help improve the structural integrity of the dome here and removed some hazardous materials, making it safer for all our visitors.
The dome is, of course, the centerpiece of the conservatory, and it's where much of the work happened. They actually replaced 1,500 pieces of glass in this room alone. Every piece was cut by hand. On top of that, another 500 panes of glass were replaced throughout the rest of the building. They cleared the space of asbestos, lead paint, installed new catwalks. It was a multi-million-dollar project, but it's not a major transformation. Folks here wanted to keep the historic integrity of the building intact.
So a lot of really subtle work, but I think when you come in, you can see all the light coming in, and the glass is all matching. It doesn't look like a patchwork of glass. It's secure and not broken. So we did a lot of good upgrades.
The conservatory was supposed to open in May, but it took a bit longer to do all the repairs required. And why is it such a special building for Detroit and the surrounding community?
Well, I think just that it's a really unique space. There's over 5,000 species of plants from all around the world here, so folks can come and, have a vacation, get out of the cold, and learn about different plant environments. And there's always something new blooming, so every time you come, it will be a new experience.
From the cactus room to the fernery, it's a feast for the eyes and your nose, too.
Here's bay rum, so this will smell good. That smells nice.
Oh my gosh.
That smells good.
That smells amazing.
I know. Makes you want to go to Speakeasy and have a cocktail, yeah?
Yes. So it's a bay rum plant. This one smells amazing. I didn't take it off the plant myself. It's offered to me, okay? It smells so good. How has it felt to be able to reopen the doors and see the public come on in again?
Oh my gosh, it's so great to see everyone here. Folks coming in out of the cold and smiling, and the staff was getting emails for months saying, when can we get back in? So it's great to be able to invite people in, especially during the winter months.
The perfect mini tropical getaway. Folks here say that one of the coolest things about Belle Isle is that it sits on international waters, which is simply a reminder of how close Windsor is to this gorgeous conservatory. Such a fun visit. Now, before we go to break, British rock legend Jeff Beck's guitars are being auctioned in London. Christie's Auction House is offering a sneak preview this week.
Well, the estimates range from £100 to the top lot at £500,000 at the upper estimate. Really, it is aimed at everyone. It's all of Jeff's fans around the world.
The guitar expected to fetch the highest price is this 1954 Gibson Les Paul. The Oxblood axe is featured on the cover of Beck's solo album, Blow by Blow. 130 guitars are up for grabs, along with amps and other equipment. Beck played in the groundbreaking group the Yardbirds, but his distinctive sound supported many artists from Tina Turner to Sting. Beck died 2 years ago. Let's take a live look outside. And if you went for a walk today like I did, maybe you got to enjoy that gorgeous snowfall. I know I certainly did. Tomorrow, mix of sun and clouds with a high of -4. And when we come back, we're going to have the very latest on Canadian politics, on the race to be the next leader of the Liberal Party. So just stay with us, and we'll have more of Colette later in the program as well. Welcome back. The Liberal leadership race is narrowing and getting clearer. CBC's Ashley Burke has the latest from Ottawa.
A surprise late-night TV appearance to soft launch a high-profile campaign.
He's a Canadian economist, former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England. Please welcome to the program, Mark Carney. Sir!
The former central banker, who's rarely seen on Canadian TV, teasing his bid to become Liberal leader on the set of a popular American show with lots of Canadian fans.
Have you offered yourself as leader?
I just started thinking about it when you tried.
Carney's actually long thought about it, and sources say he'll officially announce he's joining the race to replace Justin Trudeau on Thursday, at a time when Canadians want change.
it's really difficult for a candidate to come in who is saddled with the policies that are on.
But let's say the candidate wasn't part of the government. Let's say the candidate did have a lot of economic experience. Let's say the candidate did deal with crises. Let's say the candidate had a plan to deal with the challenges in the here and now.
Carney's teasing he's running while Canada's industry minister is being frank. He's out.
It was probably one of the most difficult decisions in my life, but I think it's the right one at the right time.
Former BC Premier Christy Clark also making the decision not to run. She's blaming her lack of time to campaign and her French skills that need improvement.
I came out and I supported Jean Charest.
But this interview on CBC's The House, showing her lack of memory about joining the Conservative Party, could have done her in.
You voted in the race, did you not?
No, I didn't. And I never got a membership. And I never got a ballot. What I did, though,
I will say, Christy Clark, we reached out to the Conservative Party, who told us, in fact, that your membership was cancelled.
That leaves a lot of space for the youngest contender, House Leader Karina Gould, who sources say will announce her bid this week.
I think it is extremely important that we have a younger voice in the race.
Those who want to lead the Liberal Party have to declare their intentions by next week. Sources say former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is expected to launch her campaign by Monday. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Less than a week before his inauguration, a newly released report says Donald Trump engaged in, quote, an unprecedented criminal effort to cling on to power after his 2020 election loss, and could have been found guilty of conspiracy and obstruction of justice if he had faced a trial. Richard Madden has the details.
Well, this long-awaited report was released overnight, and it's a bit of a long read, some 170 pages, where outgoing special counsel Jack Smith writes he had enough evidence to convict Donald Trump, and he defends his investigation against him. Now, Smith writes Trump abused his power, pressured state officials, and, quote, inspired his supporters to commit physical acts of violence when the votes were being certified on January 6, 2021, in a series of criminal efforts to cling to his presidency. Now, Smith resigned last week ahead of Trump's inauguration, and he denies Trump's accusations that the case was politically motivated, saying that is, quote, laughable. But Smith does acknowledge he had an uphill battle to begin with, citing the U.S. Constitution that bans the prosecution of a sitting president. Smith was also behind the 8 ball to begin with. It took 2 years for the Justice Department to appoint him, which didn't give him a lot of time to build his case. And while much of his evidence was made public through hearings, reporting, and other investigations, the case never made it to trial. So now this whole report is, in a sense, moot, since Trump won the election and says he would have fired Smith anyway. Now, Trump has since hit back, saying Smith was, quote, deranged, and his findings were fake. Trump also set the tone a few days ago, anticipating that Smith's report would be made public.
This was an attack on the Republican Party. This was an attack on the Republican candidate who just won an election by record numbers.
Now, Trump has signaled he will pardon many of those convicted for crimes on January 6. But it's also worth noting Smith wrote a second chapter that gets into Trump's handling of classified documents. But a judge has blocked that from being made public, at least for now. So the outgoing Attorney General is heading to court to fight for its release. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
When we come back, we will have Colette Kennedy back with us to tell us more about the weather forecast in the days ahead. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. And Colette, we've been talking about this up and down of the temperatures, and we are currently in that dip before things get a little better in the days ahead, right?
Yeah, that's right. As we get closer to the weekend, we will get a bit of a reprieve, just like we had last weekend. But, you know, when it is cool, I mean, it certainly is below seasonal in terms of if you look at what a normal high is. We're not so far off on the lows right now, but normal high -2. And today, what a struggle it's been. And then you can't just leave it there, right? And talk about what it feels like with the temperature. You've got to factor those winds in and get that wind chill. So our current readings, we've slipped now to -10, a bunch of those to go around. Just a little bit better there, Goderich, with getting some of that air coming in with the winds from the lake. And yes, even though we've had these cold spells, there's still a lot of open water, and that's why the squall events are still pretty significant in terms of the amounts of snow and the accumulations. Now, the winds shifting not as much from the west and turning more to the northwest has changed things in terms of earlier in the day, the westerly flow bringing in some of those lake effect flurries at times or light snow. And now we're seeing a break from that. -18, though, with those winds, when we take those into account, almost -20, Chatham-Kent, in terms of how it feels right now. And there you go, a look at the radar shows you there around Goderich. That's where some of the highest amounts will be over the next few days of that snow building up, and a bit of a break up towards the Bruce Peninsula because of the change of the winds from the west to the northwest. It actually helps things out, but just there, not elsewhere. So if you are going to be doing any traveling, or you just have friends or family of note in terms of what's going on in their neck of the woods, well, snow squall warnings pretty extensive here, dropped from the Bruce Peninsula, but still plenty of areas where it is tricky and it can be somewhat unexpected. And then there are some winter weather travel advisories in there as well, including around London, because with that change of winds coming back at you through the night tonight into Wednesday, getting into some of these, not just at Goderich, but extending inland, all right? In terms of what we'll be experiencing southwestern Ontario, mostly it's just going to be some of that cloud cover coming in, quite a bit of it. I've put a few sunny breaks into the forecast for tomorrow, but don't hold your breath. It's one of those kinds of days. And then a frontal boundary coming through on Thursday will actually give us a little bit of a dusting or some light accumulation. I mean, we're talking about a few centimeters here. And again, that's more so Thursday than tomorrow. Tonight, beware, the temperature nearly steady where it is right now, kind of holding through here. But the high tomorrow just -4. It comes up for the weekend, and then very cold air comes in next week.
We're just going to keep bundling up. Thanks,
There you
Colette. And thanks to you all for watching. See you tomorrow.